Look like Caitlin Clark has landed her first speaking gig of the offseason. Last offseason was Caitlin Clark $100,000 an hour speaking gigs. Well, I'm here to tell you she is not taking long getting back to work, raking in the cash because she has landed $100K to speak to speak for companies and represent companies all over the country. She's not hurting for cash, and I just think this is just the coolest thing ever.
The WNBA season just ended, and Caitlin Clark didn't even wait for the confetti to settle before she made her next power move. While half the league is buried in collective bargaining drama and union negotiations, Clark's already locked in her first major off-season gig. And it's not another endorsement deal or a charity appearance. It's a corporate speaking engagement that pays $100,000 per appearance. Let that sink in for a second. $100,000 to show up and talk for an hour. That's almost what the average WNBA player makes in an entire season on the court. This isn't just about the money, though. It's about what this move reveals. Caitlin Clark just exposed the WNBA's biggest vulnerability. She's proving that the league doesn't control her value anymore. She does. And the power shift happening right now is making front offices sweat, veteran players uncomfortable, and the commissioner's office scramble for a response they don't have. If you believe the story behind the story matters, smash that like button. It tells us we're on the right track as we break down what's really happening here. Let's filter out the noise and look at what's actually unfolding. Caitlin Clark has secured multiple six-figure speaking engagements for the offseason. These aren't small college pep rallies or local fundraisers. We're talking Fortune 500 stages, WARSI, corporate leadership summits, and exclusive business conferences where executives pay premium prices just to hear her talk about leadership, impact, and breaking barriers. The first confirmed event is at the Long Island Association's Fall Conference, one of the most prestigious business gatherings on the East Coast.
Look like Caitlin Clark is headed to Long Island Association, bro. So instead of Long Island Association, joined the Long Island Association's president and CEO, Matt Cohen, moderates a special conversation with Caitlin Clark discussing her record-breaking performances, impact, and cultural influence on October the 29th at 10:30 to 12:30 in New York.
This is the kind of event where deals get made before lunch and sponsorships are negotiated over cocktails. And Caitlin Clark is the featured speaker. Not as a basketball player doing a favor, as a paid professional commanding top-tier fees, she'll sit down with Long Island Association President Matt Cohen on October 29th to discuss her record-breaking career, her cultural influence, and how she's redefining what's possible in women's sports. Now here's where it gets interesting. Many of you have been saying this for weeks, and you were onto something. The timing of this announcement isn't coincidental. The WNBA's collective bargaining agreement expires on October 31st, just 2 days after Caitlin's speaking gig. So while the league is dealing with potential lockout threats, union disputes, and players publicly clashing with Commissioner Kathy Engelbert, their biggest stars on stage in New York giving a keynote about success and leadership to a room full of millionaires. You can't write better irony than that. The headlines practically write themselves. WNBA faces internal chaos while Caitlin Clark cashes in. The contrast couldn't be more stark. And this is exactly what terrifies the league's power structure. Because Caitlin isn't just making money, she's building independence. Let's connect the dots here. When one player's brand becomes bigger than the league itself, the entire power dynamic shifts. Corporate sponsors start asking if they even need the WNBA logo when Caitlin Clark's name alone fills arenas. Media networks stop calling the league office and start calling her agent directly. Broadcast partners start wondering if they're paying for the WNBA or just paying for access to Caitlin Clark content. This is the nightmare scenario for any professional sports league, a star so transcendent that they can function as their own economy. And Caitlin is already there. Think about the numbers for a second. The average WNBA salary sits around $120,000. Caitlin can make that in a single morning appearance, in air conditioning, with a bottle of water on the table instead of getting elbowed in the ribs by defenders who resent her success. She's earning superstar money to discuss being Caitlin Clark. Meanwhile, Commissioner Engelbert is still holding meetings about charter flight upgrades, while her biggest asset just built a parallel revenue stream overnight that doesn't need league approval. This is what real leverage looks like. And reading between the lines, this is what changes everything. Because if Caitlin can earn this much speaking to corporate audiences, what incentive does she have to put her body through an 82-game grind for a fraction of that income? The WNBA's entire economic model depends on players needing the league more than the league needs them. Caitlin just flipped that equation. High-profile speakers at her level. Names like Serena Williams, Peyton Manning, or Tom Brady, they command $150,000 to $250,000 per appearance. Caitlin is already in that tier. She's 22 years old, and she's booking fees that veteran Olympic champions charge. That's not hype. That's market value. Corporate America has decided that Caitlin Clark's story, her leadership philosophy, and her cultural impact are worth top dollar. And they're writing checks to prove it. Now let's talk about what the WNBA was built to handle. The league was designed for players who needed the platform to stay relevant, players who would follow the rules, play their roles, and be grateful for the opportunity. That system works when stars need the league's infrastructure to maintain their fame. But what happens when a player outgrows that system in a single season? What happens when the infrastructure becomes optional? Caitlin Clark is showing us the answer in real time. She doesn't need the WNBA's PR machine. She doesn't need the league's marketing partnerships. She doesn't need permission from the front office to build her brand. She's doing it herself, and she's doing it faster and more profitably than anyone expected. Every speaking engagement she books is another reminder that the old power structure is collapsing. And you were onto something when you noticed the silence from certain corners of the league. Some players who spent years positioning themselves as the face of the WNBA are watching this unfold with visible frustration. They built their brands on being the league's standard bearers, the veterans who carried women's basketball through lean years. And then, Caitlin Clark showed up, broke every rookie record in existence, turned the WNBA into must-see television, and immediately started building wealth that makes their career earnings look modest. The jealousy isn't just about money, it's about relevance. It's about watching someone do in one season what they couldn't do in a decade. And now, as Caitlin books six-figure speaking gigs before her second season even starts, the gap is widening, not just in income, in influence, in control, in power. This speaking engagement at the Long Island Association isn't just a business deal. It's a statement. It says Caitlin Clark doesn't have to wait for the WNBA to catch up to her value. She's not waiting for the next CBA to improve salaries. She's not waiting for the commissioner to fix travel conditions or negotiate better broadcast deals. She's building her own empire, one keynote at a time. And the machine runs on her name now. The WNBA's television ratings, they explode when Caitlin plays. League attendance? Record-breaking in every city the Indiana Fever visits. Merchandise sales off the charts. Caitlin Clark is the infrastructure. She's the engine. And she's proving she doesn't need the league's permission to monetize that power. Some of you in the comments have been connecting these dots for weeks, and we want to hear more. What do you think this means for the WNBA's future? Is Caitlin building a blueprint for other players? Or is she creating a model that only works for generational talents? Drop your thoughts below. Your perspective matters, because we're all watching the same revolution unfold in real time. Now let's talk about what makes this move brilliant from a strategic standpoint. Caitlin's not chasing drama. She's not firing shots at the commissioner on social media. She's not complaining about salaries or threatening to sit out. She's just quietly building generational wealth while everyone else argues. That's what separates intelligence from noise. While the WNBA spends the offseason tangled in pay debates and union fights, Caitlin's signing contracts that make the average player's salary look like pocket change. And these speaking engagements are just the beginning. This Long Island Association event is basically her corporate coming out party. It's a signal to brands everywhere that Caitlin Clark is open for business. Next comes the major endorsements expanding beyond Nike. Maybe a Netflix documentary, maybe her own basketball academy or leadership institute. Every move she makes from here happens outside the WNBA's control, and every move widens the gap between her and everyone else. The brutal truth: when your brand grows bigger than your league, you don't need permission anymore. You have leverage. Caitlin's speaking circuit might out-earn her entire WNBA salary within 2 years. She's building revenue streams that function whether the season happens or not. That's power. The kind that can't be negotiated away or controlled by a collective bargaining agreement. The kind that fundamentally changes who holds the cards. And the WNBA has never dealt with this before. They've never had a player they couldn't control through contracts or league regulations. But Caitlin's different. She's polite, she's professional, she's spotless in the media. They can't paint her as difficult. She doesn't take cheap shots at rivals or whine about officiating. She just keeps winning and keeps counting commas, while the rest of the league counts social media followers. That's what makes her untouchable.
A'ja Wilson found herself in a situation involving Caitlin Clark again. A'ja Wilson is currently back in the headlines after news surfaced. She's charging $100,000 for speaking events. She's talking about, she's charging $100K for speaking events, and fans is like, Shreggy? Since when? And you only doing this because of Caitlin.
Let's be honest about the elephant in the room. Multiple sources are whispering about the reaction from veteran players. Some of the league's established stars are watching this unfold with visible discomfort. They spent years trying to build the kind of brand recognition that Caitlin achieved in one season. And now, she's out earning them in the offseason too. The WNBA community is buzzing about what this means. If Caitlin can command $100,000 per speaking appearance as a rookie, what does that say about the league's pay structure? What does it say about who actually drives value? These are uncomfortable questions that the front office doesn't want answered publicly, because the answer exposes a truth they've been avoiding. The league's salary cap isn't based on market value, it's based on control. Think about what Caitlin's proving here. She's showing every woman in sports that real power doesn't come from begging the system for value. It comes from creating value yourself. She's not waiting for the WNBA to decide her worth. She's defining it. And that's exactly what terrifies the league office. Because the minute more players realize they can make real money without league approval, the entire power structure collapses. Some fans have asked why Caitlin didn't join Unrivaled. The player-run off-season league, started by Nafisa Collier and Breanna Stewart. The answer is simple. She doesn't need to. Unrivaled is great for players trying to supplement their income, but Caitlin already surpassed that level. Why risk injury in an exhibition league when you can make the same money or more giving speeches to CEOs? It's not arrogance. It's intelligence. She's not playing checkers while everyone else argues about board placement. She's building generational wealth on an entirely different board. And here's where it gets deliciously poetic. The WNBA desperately needs positive headlines right now. The union's threatening action. Players are publicly criticizing the commissioner. Attendance outside Indiana is concerning. TV ratings without Caitlin games are dropping. The league needs good news. And once again, Caitlin handed them a headline. The problem? It's her headline, not theirs. They can't claim credit. They didn't facilitate this. Caitlin made her own lane and proved she doesn't need their infrastructure to stay relevant. This is what the smart players are watching closely. Caitlin's not just succeeding, she's creating a blueprint. She's showing that discipline, focus, and strategic thinking can build what bureaucracy can't. Every time she cashes a speaking fee, she reminds the league that fame and intelligence create leverage, and leverage creates options. The WNBA was built on players having limited options. Caitlin just expanded her options to infinity. But let's talk about the nightmare scenario the league doesn't want to consider. What if Caitlin Clark decides the WNBA isn't worth the physical toll? What if she calculates that speaking engagements, endorsements, and corporate partnerships generate more income with less risk? Imagine it. The league's ratings would nosedive immediately. Sponsorships would dry up. Broadcast partners would panic. And Caitlin wouldn't lose a dollar. She's already proven she can build a fortune with or without them. That's the power shift we're witnessing. Not just one player making money, one player becoming bigger than the institution. The WNBA wasn't built for someone like Caitlin Clark. They wanted stars who played their assigned roles. Instead, they got a generational force who outgrew the system before her rookie contract even ended. She doesn't need the spotlight anymore. The spotlight follows her. To corporate boardrooms, to business conferences, to anywhere she decides to go. So when Caitlin steps into that Long Island ballroom on October 29th, perfectly poised and ready to speak, everyone in that room will understand what the WNBA is trying to ignore. They're not just watching an athlete, they're witnessing a phenomenon. Someone who's rewriting the rules for what women in sports can achieve economically. Someone who's proving that the ceiling isn't determined by league salary caps, it's determined by vision. And somewhere, you can bet other WNBA players are taking notes. Not the ones posting cryptic tweets about respect and hard work. The smart ones, the ones who understand that Caitlin just showed them the future. A future where players don't wait for leagues to catch up. They build their own economies, their own platforms, their own legacies. That's what true independence looks like. This off-season move is just chapter 1. Caitlin's turning herself into a walking masterclass on athlete empowerment. While the WNBA fights over flights and travel accommodations, she's hosting leadership panels and rewriting the rulebook. Every appearance she books becomes a case study. Every deal she signs sets a new benchmark. Even her silence drives conversation. That's how you know you've reached untouchable status. The league will try to spin this as good news. They'll say it shows the WNBA is producing marketable stars, but reading between the lines reveals the real story. Their biggest star just demonstrated she doesn't need them, and that terrifies every executive who thought they controlled the narrative. Caitlin Clark just took back control, and she's not giving it up. Before we go, if you want to stay ahead of every major WNBA power shift and see the stories the league doesn't want you to notice, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Because what happens next is going to be even bigger. We're tracking reports of additional speaking engagements being finalized, and the numbers are wild. This story is just getting started. Next up, we're breaking down exactly how much money Caitlin's making this offseason compared to her WNBA salary, and why that comparison has the commissioner's office in panic mode. You don't want to miss it. We'll see you in the next one.